I'm so pleased to introduce my good friend Ken Crowder. Ken's been with the Joomla project since, the very beginning, I would imagine. Yes? Mambo days. He's known as Chief Go4 on the Joomla forums, if you happen to have encountered him. And he's the one who gave me a piece of advice long ago, which said the best way to learn Joomla is to get on the forum and answer 2 questions for every one that you answer. And so since then, Ken has written a book on Joomla called Using Joomla. It's from O'Reilly. And he's also done a lynda.com video on Joomla security and Joomla 1.5. And he is here to talk to you today all about the wonderful world of K2 for absolute newbies. If you're not an absolute newbie, you're not going to learn anything. So leave now. All right. Thank you, Ken.
So a couple of, yes, I use Windows. Yeah. You guys can all laugh now. I notice there's 2 PCs in here. There would be.
Can we close that?
So,
Thanks. Thank you.
all right, so this is kind of a walkthrough. I'm going to start with a, it's going to be kind of tricky with my screen resolution. This is the Joomla installation screen. We're going to build an entire site using K2, which will be a recipe site. So all of you that like food, we're eating after this sometime. So given the fact that we're building a whole site in 1 hour, this will not be something that you're expected to follow along with. But after the session's over, if you give me your email address, I will email the presentation along with all of the assets used to build this. So you can, I've got my cheat sheet. You can go through this 9-page document and build the site yourself and kind of get a feel for it, see it again. I don't know where this video will be posted and when, but it'll be out there. And and I won't use that email address for anything but sending this to you, and then I'll delete it. And so you'll be fine there. A couple things I want to mention is the template we're using is a responsive template. Who knows what responsive design is? Right? Who just learned this weekend what responsive design was? Awesome. This is good because responsive design is the future of web for mobile and PC until whatever the next feature is that comes out. A couple of items to mention. There are 2 extensions that I'm using that are commercial. Question?
So what is responsive design for those of us that weren't in it?
Sure. I can explain it now. That's fine. I was going to explain it when we got to it.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, good. So a couple legal stuff. In the assets that I'll give you and that I'll use here, 2 of the extensions are commercial extensions. And I've spoken with the owners of these companies, and they've allowed me to give it to you as a part of this walkthrough presentation, but it's only to be used on a demo site or test site to test the functionality out. If you want to use it on a live site, you'd have to get a valid subscription. So, and I'll mention what those are. As we go through it. So, let's do this, which is going to be kind of tricky because my resolution is different. So, has anyone never installed Joomla? Raise your hand if you've never installed Joomla. Okay, good. So, we're going to go through the installation process very quickly. A lot of what we do will be very quick. First thing you have to do is create a database. And I'll just call mine Joomla 25 or 2.5. That's the name of my folder that I have under localhost. I'm using XAMPP. If you're on a Mac, you can use MAMP if you want to do this locally. Next, on the installation, there is, it says here the display errors is set to on. That's okay, we can ignore that one. That's the general public license, which Joomla is under. Username root, no password. I debated on having this done before I came, but I thought there would be someone who's never installed Joomla, and so I decided to do that in front of you all. This table prefix, in previous versions of Joomla, that was always hard-coded, JOS underscore. Who remembers that? Anybody? Awesome. That's a huge security risk. Because with SQL injection, if someone knows that, you have extensions installed on your site, they can start changing things like your administrator password. just by typing stuff for the URL. So Joomla 2.5, I think that actually started with 1.6 or 1.7. This is random. So SQL injection is almost a thing of the past with newer versions of Joomla. This would be different for every installation. It's kind of taken a while.
Ken, how many characters can you use in that table prefix?
There is not a limit. If there is, it's an actual max width limit on this itself. And you don't really need the underscore, but you should have it there for readability. But technically, your only limit there is the MySQL limit with the number of characters you can have in an actual table name, and that's pretty big. But if you have 4 or 5, you're fine. So they use 5 by default, which is perfectly fine. We're not going to use the FTP layer or really discuss what that is because that's not part of this session. Okay, site name, we're going to call it K2 demo. My email address. ABC123. If I forget that, I'm going to ask someone to tell me what it is. Oh, I think I installed sample data. No. I don't want to get off this, so I did not install sample data. Next. Perfect. Remove installation folder. That's done. The reason why it's taking a little time is I'm running my web server off this thumb drive. So I take this with me wherever I go, and I've got all my presentations, my web server, it's all right there. I haven't ever actually had to present where I use my thumb drive. So here is the basic Joomla website, freshly installed, with no content in it. Usually whenever someone would install it, as a newbie you would install sample content, and all this stuff would be filled out, but we don't need that, so we're not going to do that. ABC123. Yeah. Good. Okay. An awful lot of order. All right. Now we're going to install about 6 extensions, and I will install each one and explain why I'm installing each one. The first one we want to install is K2, for obvious reasons. Has everyone here has installed extensions, correct?
Yep.
Anyone not installed extensions? Raise your hand. Great, okay, perfect. I'm going to talk about it. So to install an extension, because we have so many to do, I'll explain the first one and then I'll just rush through the next ones because I want to make sure we have time for questions at the end. Go to, after logging into the administrator, extensions, extension manager, and then you choose your file. Documents, assets, K2. This is the latest version, 2.5.5, which I will include with all the documents. But when you go through this, you'll want to make sure there's not a more recent version if you plan on actually pushing this code out to the web sometime. Did I say what kind of site we're going to build?
Food.
Okay. So a couple years ago, we found out that our kids had food allergies. So all the stuff that we cook in our house doesn't have a bunch of allergens in it. And when we first started cooking that way, without milk or soy or eggs, it's actually kind of hard. And we had a problem finding recipes for us to cook without cooking weird stuff. And eventually we got really good at it, and the wife said, I want a website that has recipes on it. So she looked at me, of course, hey, build the website. So I did. And, that was my first introduction with K2. So I knew what K2 was, and I didn't know the owner. So we chatted about it anyway. So I did that, and it turned out to be a pretty good website. So when Jen asked me to do a demonstration on K2, I thought, well, I've got just the topic. Because I've got all the recipes, I've got the images. So we're going to build a recipe website, and we'll use the tags. They're not called tags in K2, but we'll use the tags to signify what something is free of. So if you have an allergy to a certain food, you could go to that tag, and then only the recipes that are free of that would show up. So we're not going to get much more advanced than that. On my wife's site, you can actually check a box saying, I can't have this, 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 and this, and I want to have chicken in it. Search. And then it gives you the results. But that's a little beyond this class. Okay. Well, this is...
You haven't hit the upload and install yet.
No, he did.
It's uploading.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of
Waiting for
worried about the speed issue. Okay, great. The other shouldn't take as long. K2 is pretty massive. So that notice there basically says that Joomfish is not installed. That's a multilingual extension. So like, let's say you have a lot of Spanish-speaking people that come to your Joomla website. You could use Joomfish to have English and Spanish content. Joomla 2.5 actually does a really good job with multilingual stuff, so I would explore that first. And Joomfish has a fork now, which I haven't looked at, but I've heard that it's pretty good. But continuing on. That one's installed. The next thing we're going to install is the template. And this is provided courtesy of Joomla Bamboo. Anybody ever heard of them? Mm-hmm. Anthony Olson's the owner. They were one of the first templating companies in the Joomla world that really saw the power of responsive design. So this is a commercial extension. This might be a problem.
How many do you have to install?
I've got to install
2.
6. This is number 2, but these are the 2 biggest. But I'm almost debating how fast could I install XAMPP on the actual machine.
I was thinking of that as the backup plan.
I know. Or,
There you go.
okay, that's one of the next one. The third option, I can remote into my server at home and go that route, but I really don't want to. This is another extension that kind of goes alongside the Joomla Bamboo template. It's required for their templates, almost like a frame.
What does that do?
You gotta click. What's that? You gotta click.
You did.
I did.
No.
So
Yeah.
these extensions you're installing, are they required for K2 or for the template?
This one here is required for, I'm just going to talk about it while I do it because we don't want to get too far behind. When this changes, let me know. So I installed K2, which is the CCK.
There you go.
This is going to be an interactive session, okay? Has anyone ever used All Videos by Joomla Works? What about Front Page Slideshow by Joomla Works? That's a pretty popular one. All by Joomla Works. K2 was written by Joomla Works. So in order to do video integration, we have to use All Videos, which costs, I'm not going to make the number because I don't even know, I'm going to say, I don't know, 10, 20 bucks. I could be way off in left field. But anyway, so with the template, There's a framework, the framework extension,
Change.
and then Joomla Bamboo type, and I'm actually not even sure what that does. I wrote this up a while back.
Now it's just moving along.
One more, which is Simple Image Gallery Pro, which is for the images. I have one recipe that's a video with it. We personally don't do videos on our site, just because it takes time to make videos, and we're not Food Network, so we don't need that. But I do have one here that we made, which is kind of funny. But anyway, so we use all videos for that. Do you have any questions about K2? Kind of questions you might ask at the end? Yes, sir.
I wanted to take that other class and compare the content things, but I was conflicting with another class I wanted
Sure.
to take, so I couldn't take it.
Sure.
So can you give kind of a brief rundown on the pros and cons of the 3 or 4 that he had?
Sure. Yeah, what he's referring to is Justin talked about 4 CCKs. In the guide here, it mentions that he would be talking about K2, Zoo, SaveLot, and Flexi Content. But Flexi Content isn't 2.5 compatible, so we scratched that. And he went with Content Builder. And the 2 most popular ones are K2 and Zoo. And I've not used Zoo since 1.0. When it came out, I looked at it. I still like K2 better, so I stuck with K2. So I really can't talk with any authority on how good Zoo is now, because I've only looked at version 1.0.0. Last one. But K2 and Zoo are the 2 most popular. If you are deciding to go with a CCK, I would start there. Content Builder is pretty new, so there aren't a lot of extensions for it. I actually am very good about Content Builder, so what I'm telling you now is what I just learned. But K2 has, I believe, the most third-party extensions. If you go in the Joomla extensions directory, there is a section for K2 extensions. There's also a section for the content constructor kits, which is what CCK stands for. It's a, I believe, a Drupal term that we kind of borrowed, so which is fine. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do after this comes up is we're going to activate the new template, and then I'll kind of show you how the responsive design of the template works, because that is important to building websites moving forward.
So when you use a Joomla, it's a Joomla Bamboo template,
Yes.
you need to load the Zen grid work? If it's a
If
if it's a responsive template.
not because it's responsive, but just because Joomla Bamboo hooks into it. But I don't believe it hooks into it because of its. I don't believe it hooks into it because it's a responsive template. I could be wrong there, but I'm guessing.
There's something in what it said there.
It says.
Template frameworks.
Doesn't say anything now.
Afterwards we can. I can pull up that.
It's all right. No
Okay.
worries.
So we still have. This is our homepage. It hasn't changed. So we'll go to Template Manager. I made the mistake of doing this on my machine. This is my wife's netbook. So we're going to choose JV Lifestyle at the bottom, and then choose Make Default. You can also assign templates to just certain menu items, which is really, really nice. Okay, so now if we go here, hit refresh. We see that it looks a little different. So, what do you guys see wrong with this? We're going to do some troubleshooting too while we go through this. So some of these things
You're
I
missing the
don't
link.
bottom scripts. It's empty, but we know why it's empty, because there's no content in there, and there's no image at the top. Well, that's fine. Okay. So Who knows what you're supposed to do when you install plugins?
You're supposed to
And
enable.
Turn them on, that's right.
Oh.
So we're going to go to Plugin Manager. Then we're going to look at our plugins we just installed. All videos is one. Simple image gallery is another. I know those two aren't the problem. Can't see the bottom. Okay. The display. All. Okay.
You have to re-click, you have to recheck all videos and simple
Yes,
image.
yes, that is correct. Yes. Yeah, when I changed the number to show on a page, it unchecked those. So here is JB type. Here's the grid framework, and then these are not what we installed. So enable here. When this stops spinning over here, I know that it's done. Oh, I can't see that. Okay.
Just stop, you see part of it.
Okay, good. Great, so that arrow went away. This was still a logo, but that's fine. The next thing we want to do is these participant documents. I've got all the recipes in here, and the file I send you will have this that's content. This here is a 9-page document I'm working off of, and this is the recipes. I break them out into main dish, side dish, dessert, so you can see what categories look like, and then different recipes. I'm not going to put all of those in here, just for time's sake, but they're there if you guys want to do it, so you can see some more features with changing screen layout, and you just play with it. That's how you really learn, is by playing with it. So under assets, this is where all the files are. Here's the logo I made. Pretty simple, allergen-free recipe. We're going to put that up here on this side. And K2 makes it pretty easy. Actually, this is a Joomla Bamboo thing, sorry. Edit the template. Feel free to raise your hand at any time, because the way the speed is going, this is going to be.
I think you have to click on the templates, not on the style.
You click a checkbox, and then you. Okay, that's good. You can click the checkbox and then go up and edit. There's different ways.
Oh, okay.
I just click on the name. That's just how I do it. So now we'll go to appearance and logo. From here, we're going to change a few things.
This is already K2?
What's that?
This is already K2, or this is just a template?
This is editing the template. So right now we're just editing the template itself with the logo up there. Then we're going to jump into K2.
But it's through K2, right? Or no?
No, this is through Joomla. Because we
Just
installed
Joomla?
a template. So we could have used the base template, but it's not responsive. And I wanted to show you how K2 interacts with responsive design, because there are some template makers out there that are really integrating into K2. And so they're pulling responsive design features out of K2. So whenever we make the screen thinner, the images will actually get smaller. And so I feel like it's important to show how template makers are working with K2 to make websites more friendly for mobile.
Because
If that
this
doesn't make
doesn't
sense
look
now, I
like,
hope it
Yeah, this does not look like a Joomla back end at all. That's why.
Oh, but it is. It is. This is
It's the template.
let me change this,
back
and then I can show you.
How did you get there? I'm sorry, that's the only thing I want to understand.
Yes, let me make
Okay,
these changes,
sure.
and then
You
I
clicked
will
on the
show you.
template.
So I'm going to select a new image.
oh no, I think this administrator template is different than what we usually use.
That's what it
It's
is.
assigned to.
Is that my direction?
One is back end, Joomla uses. The template
Oh,
itself,
here we go.
yes.
Upload. I did here.
But this is
So,
not the
logo.
interface I'm used to seeing.
Start upload. I could make a folder to put it in, but for time's sake, I'm just going to drop it in the
Media.
images directory. The logo. Insert. So now let's put it right there. Alternative text. In case the image is uploaded for some reason, it'll just show the text behind it. And go on this page. There are other options we could change, like logo width. We could change what class it uses. We're not going to do that because that's not. This isn't a K2 thing. Now if I go here, refresh, this should change. That's weird. Due to time, we're going to change the format of how we're doing this because I want to make sure you guys get to see all this stuff. So, something new. Okay, we'll change things a little bit because it's dragging out too long. So instead of going through the step-by-step and actually doing it, I'm going to walk through this and explain to you what I did. Because this is what the final product looks like. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
So I want to make sure we have time, and they're very strict about when time's up, time's up. We don't, Joomla Day New England does not run late. So this is running on my server at home, and this is K2. So everything you see here on down, it's all K2. So there is, let me zoom out a little bit. Go a little bit more. Okay, so this is all K2. And see how it breaks stuff up into little blocks? You have the option to tell it, okay, I want to have one large recipe or item at the top. And you see after that I want 4 of them to be in 2 columns. In this case I think I have more than 4. Yeah. And then it has navigation. It's all automatic, which is really, really nice. So what I did was I went into K2, and those of you who were in the previous session, Justin talked about how there's a certain order you have to do things. Like for instance in Joomla, it's always been used to be SCAM, section, category, article, menu. Now it's just category, article, menu, because we have no sections, we have multi-level categories. Well, in K2, you have to set up your tags, your extra fields, they call them extra fields, before you can set up a category to point to it. I'll show you that so it's not completely in left field. The first thing we want to do is go to extra field groups. And I created a group called recipe, which is pretty simple. Just click new, type in a name. And if that doesn't make sense now, it will make sense in a minute. Then I went into extra fields, and I created an extra field called source. This is so each recipe can have a source. So you can say, I got this from Food Network, or I got this from my grandmother's cookbook. And I got to choose what I wanted. I wanted it to be a URL. And it opens up in a new window. These are just defaults. They can change. If we wanted to have another one, I would just click New. Has anyone ever used WordPress or understand what tags are? Okay. It's a way you can assign tags, multiple tags to one item, and then later you can filter it just on tags. You can say, I just want this kind of, whether it's Apple products, I just want to know about the iPad. Maybe I have a tag for iPad, there's a tag for Apple, Macs. Everyone seems to be a Mac user these days, so I'll use that as an example. Different groups. We only have one group. We had a discussion in the previous session about groups and tying into categories, so I won't get into that too much. And then you choose the type. This is really great because then you have multiple types. This is one place that the one thing you can't do in Joomla core, you can't create your own fields to tie to content items. So in our case, we can tie a URL to the content item and show it. Or we can have a drop-down box, or we can have a text area, a radio box. There's just different boxes you can choose. So we have source, which we've shown. And after that, I would have gone into parameters, although this could have been done at any time. These parameters affect K2 across the board. And you'll find that there are a lot of settings in K2. In fact, there's so many, it's probably scary. And if that's the case, just pretend they're not there. Until you want to tweak something, go looking for where that setting is. So in this case, well, we'll just look here. We can enable the K2 default CSS file. If you don't want to, you can just say no. This here, do not load jQuery library. If there's a conflict with K2 and something else, you can turn it off here. This is a good troubleshooting tip if you use K2. For instance, front page slideshow uses K2. I'm sorry, uses jQuery. If they both load, then you could have issues. So you want to make sure that if you have issues with extensions that use jQuery not working, you look at the source and see if it's being loaded more than once. Different versions could be loaded. So just know that's there. And I am going to go to Images tab. And I've already done it. This was defaulted to a bigger number. It says 640. That big image that we saw on the screen was for Brussels sprouts. If I were to upload that image with the default, it was 800 pixels. It would be huge, and it would just break the template. So I said, okay, I want that big image to be this size. And so you could set those. So whenever it went down to 2 columns, you could have it be a smaller size. So this gives you a lot of power. Whenever you upload a file, it actually creates 6 different copies of that image. So when the page loads, it's not resizing it on the screen. Because when it does that, it is quality. So it does eat up more disk space if you have a lot of images, but it's well worth it. And even though these are set here as the defaults, you can then set them in a category as well. If you have a category that the layout's different, you can set it and it'll adhere to that one over this one.
So what you're saying is that when you upload an image through K2, it not only uploads your image, but then it creates a copy of that image that's resized to another size, and more copies resized to these other sizes.
Exactly. So when we uploads the original, and it creates a copy that's 640 pixels wide. It creates one that's 600 pixels wide, and it names them a little bit differently. It adds S for small, medium, XS, XL as an extension. So that whenever that page loads, it doesn't have to think and say, okay, I'm loading this image in this space, I need to render it for that space. Or it doesn't say, I need to add a width tag. Because we add a width tag to HTML. Has anyone ever done that? I've done it. It uses an algorithm that's very fast. And that algorithm is built for speed, not for quality. And so they go ahead and resize it when you upload, when you hit save. And so whenever they serve the page up, it actually sends the right image. So that's used in a lot of enterprise level CMSs. can set a category image width. I turned off category images. So I'm going to skip that. Cancel. To create categories in K2. Let me ask you this. Does everyone understand what content is in Joomla? You go to content, then you have article manager, category manager.
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone realize that this replaces all that? That's a key concept to try and grasp. But you have limited features when you go to these items within Joomla, and so that's what a content construction kit is. It's a way to say, okay, we're not going to use this because it has limits. We're going to use something else that gives us more features. So newer versions of Joomla are really good about adding some of the basic things. An add or a question?
Question.
Oh, I figured you guys could add.
No.
Because you're Meg. I mean, I thought you would.
I've never used K2.
Okay.
But can you have part of your site that's regular old content articles and then part of it that's goes with K2? Or if you have K2 that is everything K2?
The answer is yes, you can do both. They can run side by side. It's not a problem. It's an extension.
That's what I thought.
It's just an extension.
Yeah.
There is an option in K2 to import content items. If you have a site that already uses content, you can import it into K2 and then go from there if you wanted to.
But if you decide you don't like K2 and you uninstall it, you lose all that.
It doesn't destroy the original.
What happens?
So the original is still there. But if you
There,
update
you just
K2,
can't access it.
but when it copies it over, it doesn't destroy the original. So it's still there. But if you updated the stuff in K2, put it over here, and then you get rid of K2, then you have the old stuff there.
Oh.
So that's why Justin emphasized test on your local first.
But if you had built it in K2, if you had added the content to K2 and then decided you didn't want K2 anymore, you'd lose that content.
Can you migrate it back? Is that such a question?
Yeah, migrate content that was built in K2 back into the regular article manager.
I don't know. I would assume someone's written it. I don't know if it's out there. Laura.
Ken, can you easily import data from a CSV file into K2 and into especially multiple tags? So, which is in effect multiple categories. One item can exist in multiple categories or tags.
You can't put one item into multiple categories
So
unless.
you have multiple tags though.
The multiple tags, yes.
Okay, and you can import from a CSV file.
There is a way to do that, yes.
They
I've
have
not
an
done it.
extension. Okay.
I've not done it, so I really can't speak with authority on how
Rumor said
easy
there
that
was
is.
an extension, so I didn't know.
Yeah, you would think that I would be all for migration scripts and importing stuff, but no website is cookie cutter, and so I'm sure they're talking about this right now. If your site isn't big, skip the migration process, build it brand new. Because if you migrate, something's not going to be just right, and you'll spend more time trying to track that down.
I'm sorry, I'm not talking about migrating. I'm saying
Correct.
if you have a directory of books,
Okay.
so your client gives you an Excel spreadsheet of 1,000 books, and you need to import that into K2.
Okay.
That's the purpose I'm saying, not to migrate from one to
It
another.
can be done. I've never done
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Okay. Question? Okay. Great. So, categories. K2, like Joomla, has multiple categories. You can nest them. Before Joomla allowed this, K2 had it, which was a great selling feature for K2 when it first came out. Now it's in Joomla's core. But you can have a category inside of a category. I don't have to explain that because that's now in Joomla. I used to have to explain that to people. And then it tells you how many recipes, in this case, are in each one. And you can have these go down as many as you want. I wouldn't recommend more than 2 or 3. So 3-click rule. If someone has to click more than 3 times on your website to find what they want, that's a bad thing. Okay. Creating new categories. There are, just like you would expect, lots of options. We're not going to go over all of them because of time. But you can choose reading count. It says 2, columns 1. That's where over here we had the big one. And I actually made it this big on purpose to left this space because you might want to put a module over there. So I left that space there to kind of show that. I could have made it a full width, but then it just makes this ridiculously tall. In fact, I think this is ridiculously tall myself. But I did it to show that you can go that full width. In the next area, you can tell it how many columns and how many.
Why does it say leading count 2 there when you only have the one?
Because that's the default. Scroll over. So go into recipes. Leading count 1.
Ah,
But let's see what happens to it 2. Save, still one column.
you do this for the categories.
And hit refresh. Now we have
One.
garlic mashed potatoes in one column, and everything else just automatically moves over. But see how this one now is wider because it's a different image, because it's the extra large image as opposed to the medium image, which was smaller. But I didn't have to generate that, so it makes the site look faster. I'm going to change that back. Oops, it's not the right button. Sorry, I was using the large image. You can tell which image you want to use, or know it. This is kind of like the feature articles built into Joomla, where you can kind of do the layout. It's very close to that. Select template. We're choosing lifestyle. That's the Joomla Bamboo K2 template, which comes with the template. You could actually install your own or create your own if you want to. It sounds kind of weird to have a template for your site and a template for K2, but a lot of the big template makers are now building templates just for K2 and packaging it in with their template, which is why the styles of K2 look like the styles of the site. I'm not sure if Zoo does that or the others. Does anyone know?
If like does one.
What's that?
You said you're not sure if.
Yeah, it's Zoo. Zoo is a different CCK.
Okay, I just didn't
Sorry,
hear
so there's
it.
K2, Zoo, and then Justin also talked about Content Builder and Sigma. I'm not sure if they have this ability or not. Way down, catalog option. Actually, I'm not going to go into catalog option. It's a way to make your site like a catalog. It just has some extra features, which is kind of neat. Now they have K2 Mark, which Justin touched on, which I haven't played with either. I've read about it. It looks pretty slick. And ordering, that all is that's all pretty standard. So here, parent category none. Is this the root level? Extra group none, because there's nothing that we're going to put inside this category. I'm going to now show you the main dish category. So there's some different things here. I tell it the parent. That's pretty standard in Joomla. Then I tell it inherit from none. So this is its own, it has its own parameters over here on the right side. But it uses this recipes extra fields group. So that way, whenever we create an item, we'll actually be able to tell it the URL that it goes into for all of its items. Let me keep going. That'll make more sense in a second. So the right side, notice how it's all enabled. You can make changes. This is one nice feature in K2. If I go into any of the other two, it pulls the parameters for main dish. I could change this. Actually, I didn't used to be able to. Used to be able to just gray it out. Apparently, it should ignore all this unless something has changed since I last looked at the code, because it's only going to pull the parameters from the other one. So if you want to change something in all of your categories, you change it in one spot, it's effective over everything. Does that make sense to everyone? Good. So let's take a look at one of these. We're going to go into the actual item. Make sure I don't miss anything. about. Categories, tags, I won't forget tags. Here's what an actual item looks like. The equivalent would be articles within Joomla. You click on the image, it spins, then it shows you the image, whatever size we wanted to show. So if I was on a bigger screen, it would actually show a bigger image. Going down, rate this item. Can you read that okay? That was kind of light to me. Okay. And that's the CSS thing. We can change that. These are the social. I'm actually not a fan of them only having 3. That's my opinion. But there's Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. I feel like there should be more. There is a way that you can add a social script. So you can take your snippet from add this. Has anyone ever used add this? Okay. There's a plugin for it, but if you go to addthis.com, it'll make a little box. When you click on it, it's got, I'll say every social network, everything. And so you can share it on any service you want to. I actually would have liked to have seen that, something like that. But I guess my assumption, I don't know if this is true or not, but is that they got tired of each release having to change the ones that fell off the market, adding new ones. They said, we'll just stick with the 3 big ones and be happy with that. Here are tags. That was a good time to look at tags. And tags are, well, does anyone not understand tags? Okay. So I'll give a brief explanation. And it didn't start with WordPress, but it kind of really took off with it. Instead of saying this is in this category, it's also referred to as taxonomy if you've heard of that term before. But I can assign a label to it. Kind of like in Google Apps or Google or Gmail, they use labels. Similar concept. This is an egg-free recipe. It's a fish-free recipe. It's milk-free. And with that, you would be able to click on one of these, and it would pull up just items that fit that had that tag assigned to it. So it's a good way to drill down. If you've ever seen a site that has, what's that?
It does like a link when you click on it?
Yes. If you've ever seen a website that has these words in a box, and some are bigger and bolder than others, if you click on that, those are actually tags. Now, sometimes they're search terms, but they're tags. And if you click on it, it shows you all the articles, stories, items, whatever that terminology is for that CMS that have been applied that tag. And tag as a tag, that tag. If I were to click on soy free, we get all of the recipes that are soy free. That's really good, by the way, if you like orange chili. So throw that out there. Go back. Let's look at tags. If you have used WordPress, you have a good understanding of what tags are. So here, I just added each one. It's very, very simple. Click New, type in the name. One thing I don't like about newer versions of K2, and those that have used K2 in the past might remember, depending which version, whenever you create an item, there was a list of tags, and you could click the ones you wanted. What's that? Okay. So you could check the ones you wanted. Well, I'm guessing they had enough people complaining saying, my tags are hundreds long or a drop down, I can't choose them all. So now you have to do things like start typing it, wait, select it. That to me is too slow. So I'm probably going to complain and say to the owner and say, if there's less than 20 tags, I want to see checkboxes. Something like that, so I can do this faster. Because here, you have to know what the tags are.
Yeah.
And you can't type something in the middle. like if I type free, because they all have the word free in it, I don't get anything. So I have to know what the tags are. So that to me is a downside. But that's just, it's something I'm willing to accept, but it doesn't mean I won't try to change it. So that's tags. I'm not going to cover breadcrumbs. That's more filling out the site. Go over.
So we'll be able to walk through these steps when you send us files.
Yes, you can go through stuff. It even says things like click save and close. Click on title, put in the word search. So this gives you step by step, and I actually apologize for.
So basically, if you install K2, you do not have to use any of the other features of the administration.
Yeah, after I installed Joomla, I installed K2, and I installed K2 in the template, and then I installed all videos, and I'm going to explain all videos in Simple Image Gallery Pro in just a second, because we haven't even looked at those yet. So actually, let me do that, and then we'll get back to that. Scrolling down here, latest from Headshot, that's just the administrator account. If you had lots of people contributing, this would just show the 5 latest items that whoever wrote this did. Media, this is where all videos comes down. This is the only, well, that's loading. Okay, that's my kitchen. Okay, that's my wife. So, you can play it right in the page. But you have to have all videos installed to do that. If it's not installed, you won't have that option under media. You won't have that option under media. It won't exist. It has to be, all videos has to be installed. And that one is not free, but it's not that much. Simple Image Gallery, that one, actually I think I was back there, because all videos is free. Simple Image Gallery Pro is not. So if I just wanted to add an image, great, I can do that big image. If I wanted to add a gallery, which would be, I've got to find one that's got more than one. Give me 1 second. Assets, let's go with main dish. Stir fry. Let's find image. I grew up in this area, the fried chicken. Okay. Let's go back on. Make main dish. This right here. So you can have more than one image, just the main image, which you can do. But if you want to have this gallery, you have to have Simple Image Gallery Pro installed, and that one is available on their site for purchase. So this you wouldn't be able to do for free. The video you could do for free. So that makes sense. But this extension will be included, but with that whole disclaimer, it's only for demoing, testing, walking through this. That's the disclaimer there.
Can I ask can you use all videos without K2?
Yes. Yes, you can. All videos is its own separate plugin. And in fact, all videos, if you want to put a video within a content item, even just in Joomla content, you can use all videos, and it's very nice. And it'll pull from, I'm going to say 50 different video providers, or even just an uploaded file. YouTube, video, even some questionable European ones. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, because the developers are down this release. So, but they've been around Joomla for a very long time, and they've got a very solid business. Because I mean, K2 wasn't written by one person. There's a team of developers that actively work on it. So when we create the item, looks very similar to Joomla. You've got your box here for your editor. You can add an image. This is just a single image. And you can add captioning credits. If you're going to build a website for a newspaper, this is almost required. I mean, you almost have to credit the photo. I don't use it because there are photos. I'm not going to sue myself. Image gallery, it only accepts zip files. And I don't believe that's always been the case, but that's the case now, which is kind of frustrating if you only have one image that you want to have in that gallery format. You actually have to zip the file and then add it. So, but that's not, I'm willing to live with that. Media, so browse server, can use an online service. See, they've got a lot of services here. And then whatever the video ID is. So let's say you had a video on YouTube, which I don't see YouTube. That's very weird. Oh, so they put the top. It's very popular. YouTube, if you just put in the ID, it'll take care of adding all the code behind it. So that's very nice. What's that?
Or using embed button.
Embed? Is that the question?
Like go to YouTube and build code and stuff in there.
Yeah, did you ever show you how to do that, or?
No.
Okay. Well, if you just pull the video, it's in the URL. It's like, I don't know, 12, 15 funny characters. And, or you can just drop your own code right here. Because even Google and YouTube they'll give you embed code. Extra fields, we've already seen that. But extra fields are tied to categories, so we have to choose our category first before we can choose extra fields. In this case, I'll choose main dish. Now it knows, okay, you want to be able to type in a URL. And then attachments, I've honestly never used the attachments field, but I've seen it used, and you can just attach files to it. So nothing too special about that. So, does anybody have any, oh wait, responsive. I'll make this quick. All right, watch the screen. See how it gets smaller? Which a lot of templates are fluid like that, but if you notice, the actual image gets smaller too. Okay? Now
How small does it get?
Yeah. Watch the menu at the top. Because the recipes contact us. Oh, it got small enough. It's big. Oh, this could be a mobile device. So it changes. What's great about this is, old way of doing things, you'd have a template for mobile, a template for desktop, sometimes a template for tablets, and it was a lot to manage. You used JavaScript to determine what are they using. And now it's one template, and it says, what's the screen width? Okay, screen width got below this whatever threshold. I'm going to switch and use this CSS instead. And so, but that's a CSS3 thing. Any browsers that aren't CSS3 compatible, it won't work right.
Is this K2 doing, or is this the template that it's doing
Great
it?
question. This is the template.
Mm-hmm.
However, the template is specifically manipulating K2 to make it work properly. It's not foolproof though. It's not foolproof. I'll show you why. If we go down here, oh, that's it. Let me go back home. So see how the title gets smaller too?
Mm-hmm.
That's, it's pretty slick. If we go down, okay, that looks fine. Those two. You see that, it's resizing just fine. If we get too small, see that right there, they overlap?
Mm-hmm.
Now granted, I'm not sure what width this is and which mobile devices even get that small. But, yeah, you get the idea. So you click
So
on
if you get K2, you can get any template and it will be responsive, or the template has to be responsive.
Yeah.
So responsive.
When I was building this presentation, I knew Joomla Bamboo had responsive templates. So I Skyped the owner, Anthony, nice guy, and I said, hey, I want a basic responsive template. Which one you got? And this was one of them. And I said, great, can I use it? Which he just sent me right then, which is great. And then, can I give it out? Which is always the tough question. Can I give that away to like 50 people? And but I'll tell them that they've got same conversation with photos from Joomla. I want to include this because this one was crucial. If he would have said no, I couldn't give it out, I'd have to find something else. Simple Image Gallery Pro, I would have a problem demoing it and then just saying you're not going to get it in the assets. I'm sorry, but this is what it looks like. But the template's kind of important for this presentation. But they both gladly said, yeah, go for it.
Simple Image Gallery, isn't that a donation? I thought that I had it for free, at least one of their plugins or module.
Yeah, let me show you. There's Simple Image Gallery.
Yeah.
And then there's Simple Image Gallery Pro.
So the K2 plugin, the Simple Image Gallery that you need for K2, you're saying is the pro version of it.
Yeah.
But there is a Simple Image Gallery plugin that you can use in articles for free.
Sure. I'm going to answer that question a different way. When I first started using K2, it had a little thing that said, please install the Simple Image Gallery or Simple Image Gallery Pro plugin to make a version whatever and above to make this tab be functional. Well, I had that Simple Image Gallery installed, it wouldn't work. So I could go through the process of a support ticket, but I know photos, so I just Skype them and say, hey, it doesn't work. Anyway, so well, I'm going to fix that. Well, in the meantime, they decided that we don't want that to work. It didn't work at one time, the free version, but yeah, so it's got to be pro to make that work. The regular one now, it's doesn't work. So.
They have to get paid somehow.
What's that?
They have to get paid somehow.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
How many Joomla templates are responsive, like percentage-wise? This many percent.
I'm totally making this up. Ready? Okay, so here we go. Okay, so all the major template providers, I would say, in the last 2 or 3 months, have really realized that responsive templates aren't going on there. The concept of responsive template is only a couple years old, and it's not very practical without the advent of CSS3. And if someone's a call me out on that, I'm totally cool with that. So you do have issues with older browsers, like people who won't upgrade their version of IE. That for web developers, you guys know, it's a thorn, and it's bad. So that is one issue. Along with that, older versions of IE don't support certain HTML5 tags, like video, which is another issue, but that's not dealing with this. We won't get into that. But as long as people keep up with versions of the browsers, responsive templates will work just fine.
Jen, that clock is fast.
Jen, you're late.
I am.
To use responsive templates?
Yes. No, responsive templating is completely outside of K2 or even Joomla. It's a thought process that says, the CSS says, what's my screen width? If it's between this and this, I want to use this CSS. If it's between this and this, I want to use this CSS.
So the non-K2 version of the Bamboo template is also responsive?
Yes. Yeah, the template is responsive, and it hooks into K2 to make K2 responsive.
Do you actually have to have 3 CSS files?
For different sizes?
Yeah.
No, there's, and I can show you, because Jen's going to kick us out.
That's right.
Wasn't
Wasn't he fabulous?